things is a much better user experience than allowing somebody to get harassed and then having to ignore them later. But even if you do actually want to ban or ignore somebody, then we have the ignore ban. We want banning and ignoring somebody to be a great user experience too. So the ignore bat is not actually a bat. It's something, an idea like a baseball bat. So if I don't want to talk to you, I don't want to talk to Snoopy, I can summon up a virtual baseball bat and just hit him out of the way, and Snoopy's now gone. And I don't have to worry about him anymore, I don't see him anymore, he's gone forever. This is a much better UX than having to try and find his name in a list, or try and figure out what his name is, or click him as he's teleporting around. So it's important to think about this in a way that means that we're making it easy for somebody to set their own comfort levels and their own experience and define what social VR means for them. So really, I think the important things to take away from this is social VR is going to be a huge component of VR. It's going to be a component in almost every experience you care to name, except for maybe one-on-one individual experiences. It's going to be a problem for enterprise. It's going to be a problem for general spaces. It's going to be a problem in games. So it's really important to think about these problems on the ground floor. If you're going to build something that has a social component in it, think about what do you do to prevent people from abusing your system? What do you do from day one to stop them being able to harass other users in the space? And yeah, social VR will have all of the problems that we have right now in reality. People looking at you and disliking you, people who are going to immediately decide that they want to harass you, or they just don't like who you are. And again, the social internet, it's going to have all of those problems too. It's going to have everything that is the worst of the internet, unless we as designers prevent that ahead of time. So I think conscious UX designers can and will make or break social VR. It's really up to us. For every time we build one of these things, it's really up to us to decide, this is how we make this a better space. Like, we have the potential to make social VR feel better than reality. Because in reality, we only have social constructs that stop people from acting badly. In VR, we can build those constructs so that you cannot break a personal bubble if you don't want it to. You cannot talk to me, you cannot catcall me on the street if I don't want you to. It's all about setting your own personal comfort levels for VR. So with that, I'm going to ask if anybody has any questions about this space. Yeah?
So let's say you set your just regular stranger bubble to around 2 feet, right? And the stranger approaches you, and they're talking to you, and they're past that 2-foot zone, and you can't hear them because that's your safety zone, but they're talking to you, and they're like, what's going on? Why am I not getting a response?
So the experience, the best way to design that experience from both sides is so that not only do you become invisible to me, but I become invisible to you.
Okay.
So it's obvious to you that suddenly I'm gone from the space.
Okay. So it's a little bit awkward to just have somebody disappear in front of you.
It's the most elegant solution that I can think of.
Gotcha.
I mean, if you have better ones, these are just suggestions. I mean, like I said, one of the things that people have discussed is like having actual colliders where you just cannot approach me beyond a certain point. But then there's so many inherent problems with that. And the nice thing about having a personal bubble idea that makes people invisible is it's actually a much lighter load on the system too. So I don't have to render all of the people. For example,
the colliders for the hitboxes, basically.
Yeah, so, and for example, Altspace does a lot of comedy events where they have sort of a comedian standing live on a VR stage. It would be nice if I can make my personal bubble big enough so that nobody is standing in front of me in the stage, so I can see everything that's going on. So there's other reasons that I decided to use that as a mechanism, you know, because it makes crowds more comfortable, it makes it easier on the system to run, so.
Cool, thank you.
You're welcome.
So we've all seen the commercial where you drive down the street and you ever seen the light screen. If VR has the potential to be an analog to our current world, our default world, and where some of our experiences, do you feel that some of the UX that you're designing here is depriving people of that? The real experience. And because everything today wasn't roses and beautiful, I hit some traffic on the way here. And I saw a dead possum on the side of the street.
I think for you, the important thing to take away is that it should really be in the user's control what their experience is. I would not like a world where everybody had the same default personal bubble, and that is a bad experience, and has the potential to sort of make everything, sunshine and roses, when in reality maybe that's not what we want.
I would leave that.
Yeah, but for you, if you decide that you want 100% this is reality, I want to be able to interact in the same way as reality, then you set your own personal controls in that way. And one of the other ideas that I had in this space was the idea that, you divide off different rooms that have different social rules, for example. So maybe I want a place where I can go and say whatever I want, and I'm not in danger of getting harassed, or I'm not in danger of getting banned or ignored, and I can do whatever I want, a free-for-all space. Having a space like that, where you can absolutely do 100% what you want, I think is important, but it should be a choice versus that's the default. And I think that's where some of the existing social experiences is, they're losing out right now, that's the default, is you can do whatever you want to me, and I have no control over that. And for some people, that's going to, especially I think for some women, they're going to put on that VR headset and go into their first social VR experience, and literally sometimes within 30 seconds of being in a social VR environment, I'm being harassed. Like, if that's my first experience of social VR, what's my reaction as a user going to be? I'm going to take off that headset, throw it away. All right, social VR is not for me. When in reality, what we want is to allow people to feel comfortable. And again, the really important thing is we want users to be able to set their own comfort level. Like, whatever their experience is, we should enable them to design that, So for kids, there should always be a safety bubble, for example. And then for some adults, maybe you don't want anything. You want 100% reality. Absolutely. I say that's great. These should be conscious choices we're making, not this is just the way it is because we haven't bothered to think about it. Any other questions?
I guess I'm just curious. Just like there are people that can hack into anything possible right now, aren't you concerned, or are you taking preventative measures to make sure that they're not stepping over whatever boundaries you set already? Because if they're looking to go bully someone, they're not gonna stop necessarily.
I think, speaking as a designer, it's a little bit more of a developer question, but I think if you build everything, again, for comfort on the user side, that it doesn't matter what boundaries you're trying to prevent, because it's my own machine that is dictating what I see and what I experience, versus it being your machine or your system that dictates what I see and what I experience. That's why a lot of the problems right now in the social internet is difficult, because you have no way to really prevent somebody from, on a public platform, from doing what they want. If they have the skills to get around your barriers, absolutely they're going to do that. That's why if we put the burden on designing us, for us to design a great user experience from our side, then it doesn't really matter what anybody else out there is doing. That's why I'm thinking about this space in that way. Make it good from my point of view, and then I don't really care what you're doing. Anybody else?
So I'm not sure how much you know about this, but do you know if the gaming industry is taking on any of these types of trends on how to customize levels of interaction with others? Because as someone who games a lot, I totally understand what it's like to be a female in the gaming space. So the only way that I can protect myself is to just conceal my identity.
Yeah.
So.
And obviously in social VR, that's much harder to do, because you've got a feminine sounding voice, or maybe you want to be able to wear a female avatar, for example. There are also companies doing research in this area. As I was looking into this topic, I read a lot of the stuff that Riot Games has done around their community management, because they had a very toxic community, and they had to do a lot of work to try and come back from that. Which is another thing, you know, it's very hard once your community is already toxic to really bring it back to a nice place. It's much easier to put prevention in ahead of time and keep your community nice from the start. So I know that they've done a lot of research and work on making things better. I'm not sure if they're thinking about it in the same way as I have been about this topic, but I know I wrote a blog post on this topic, and I know it's gone around a lot of the big companies out there. People are actively thinking about this, and this is why I want to talk about this. I want people to think about this problem right now, and I want them to worry about it right now, because the tendency is when you're male game developers or male VR developers, there's a tendency not to understand perhaps that other people's experience might not be the same as yours and design against it. So.
Right in time.
Yay.
All right, thank you so much, Suzanne.